Heads up, you are now in the Hoodwood, web's foremost destination for a discussion of sports hot topics. This week, Nerlens Noel. His knee injury has devastated UK. How will it affect his draft status? And speaking of drafts, could sitting out a year actually be beneficial for a certain football player? LeBron James. Is he the unquestioned best of all time? And how would he compare to his airness, Michael Jordan? Arrogance of Jason Garrett in the Post, how he's destroying a once proud franchise, and a thoughtful discussion on Native Americans as mascots. That Fat Dap head slap, all coming up in the Hoodwood. Are you ready? Let's go! Greetings from the Hoodwood, where the locals, my sources have told me that Punxsutawney Phil has been kidnapped, or hoodnapped as it would be, and not to be released until the temperatures climb above and stay past 60. I'm your boy KJ. Leading off this week, the curious case, or sad case as it may be, of University of Kentucky's Nerlens Noel, fabulous freshman who had been blocking shots and rebounding like a beast, was injured and is out for the season with a torn ACL after attempting to block a shot against Florida in Gainesville Tuesday night. Nerlens Noel was one of John Calipari's most highly regarded recruits, and many people felt that he was just stopping by in Lexington for a year before stepping on to riches in the NBA. I thought personally that he would be a lottery pick. That type of talent, keeping him in Kentucky or any college environments more than a year would be wasting talent. But the fact remains that Noel had to go to college. David Stern and the NBA have dictated that a player can no longer jump from high school to the NBA, as has been the case of Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Amari Stoudemire, just three of the names that roll off the top of my head for high schoolers that jump directly to the NBA from high school. The NBA dictated in 2007 that a player had to be at least a year removed from high school before they could declare for the NBA draft. Such is the case that you had Greg Oden playing for Ohio State, Kevin Durant for Texas, top draft pick last year Anthony Davis, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, both playing for Kentucky. Me personally, I think making a player wait a year out of high school, which they say may make a person more mature and worldly, I think is a load. The thing is, to me, when I graduated high school, I could go out and get a full-time job right out of high school. Any kid can go right out of high school, right into the army, right into a factory job. They're smart enough to be able to get taken by the highest profession right out of high school. Who am I? Who are you? Who is anybody to stand in their way and say they can't do it? I've always thought that a player would get hurt, such as Noel does, and that teams might shy away from him. He's already dropped from first to third, according to ESPN's Chad Ford. And that is potentially millions of dollars that he may not be able to reap. Now, could Noel come back better, stronger player? I don't see why not. Knee injuries aren't as career-ending as they were at one time. But the fact that he had to go to college and, take the risk of hurting himself and losing out on that kind of potential. On a related topic, Jadeveon Clowney, the wonderkind defensive end for South Carolina, who exploded into a lot of people's consciousness with the bell-ringing hit he laid out on the Michigan running back in the Outback Bowl on New Year's Day, is thinking of challenging the NFL rule saying that a player has to be 3 years removed from his high school graduation to be eligible for the draft. Now, one time, players had to wait till their college class graduated before being able to be eligible for the NFL draft. A rule that was successfully challenged, and that a number of juniors now have been able to declare for the draft. And one of the most notable ones that come to mind is Barry Sanders. But Jadeveon Clowney is just finishing his second year at South Carolina and just turned 20 just a few days ago. But he will have to wait for the 2014 draft. There are some speculations saying that he may sit out his junior year and not play. Now, given the condition that his one-time teammate Marcus Lattimore, who suffered not one but two separate debilitating knee injuries, the second one being gruesome enough where many people question if he will be ready for this coming draft. Seeing what had happened to Lattimore, many people in Clowney's corner may think that it may be best for him to wait, to sit out a year. I, for one, think with pro players, it should be weighed on a case-by-case basis. There are some players that are ready to play in the NFL, that are physically ready. There are some, I'm not going to ever advocate a high school player jumping straight to the pros in football. Football and basketball are two totally different sports. They're more physically demanding in football. You do a lot more growing physically in football than you do in basketball. Yeah, you're going to put on some inches in basketball. You're going to get some bulk. But you would likely more see a high school player in basketball jump directly to the NBA and make it than a high school player jumping straight to the pros. The speed of the game in the pros in football from high school to college to pros, is tenfold. I've been told by a former NFL player, when I asked him point blank, what's the difference between high school and college to pros? He said, without hesitation, speed. It's a faster game. The adjustment in the pros is a lot more. Now, could Jadeveon Clowney make it in the NFL? I have no question that he would. He is the rare freak of nature that will be able to survive in the pros. Will the NFL relax its rule? You know they're not. NFL changing their rules up is going to be a long, lengthy process and could end up in court. I, for one, think that Clowney should stay in school, have a monster junior year, and enjoy his number one status, but in 2014, not this coming spring. And with it being Michael Jordan's 50th birthday coming up on Sunday, many people in the media have started to throw back to some of the things that he has been doing. Sports Illustrated here putting up a very nice cover story about them. It's his 50th cover for his 50th birthday, which I thought was kind of nice timing. But the debate has started to rage again of who would be better, Jordan or LeBron, or Jordan versus Kobe. Now, me personally, I think Jordan would punish Kobe, that he would reach too deep into his bag of tricks and get into Kobe's head enough where he could just start to punish him with jumpers and rain. Now, I'm talking about Jordan in his prime, not Jordan 50, but I'm saying Jordan in his prime. I think Jordan would have his way with Kobe Bryant. and be able to shoot as he wanted to, pretty much at will. Jordan versus LeBron is a bit of a different story. I think Jordan would have trouble with LeBron. Why? Well, maybe because he's giving up 3 inches and about 40 to 50 pounds. I think LeBron would back Jordan in, post him up, and be able to hit turnaround jumpers on him, if not just take him straight to the rack. The only advantage that Jordan might have over LeBron is Jordan's better outside shooting. He was one of those that could rain jumpers from 15 to 20 feet with little or no regard for human life. Now, the only thing that I think that Jordan would be able to handle LeBron on would be able to throw good head fakes. Back him up like he's going to shoot for 3, head fake and go around you. That was one of the things in comparison with Jordan over Kobe. I think Jordan being the superior defensive player, and Kobe's no slouch, but I think Jordan would have a little bit of an edge defensively. Now, of course, all of this is just, rotisserie fodder and, the age-old debate, crossing generational lines of who would be better, who would say, who would take out this person. Would Dick Butkus be able to handle Adrian Peterson? How would Drew Brees do against the old Packers defense? That debate will go on. You can, put it up, all different specters of sports and different players. But in this debate with Jordan, I still would take Jordan over Kobe. I would take LeBron slightly over Jordan. Now, I wouldn't say Jordan would definitely get his, and it would be a tight game. I still say Jordan would punish Kobe. But that's just one man's opinion, and that's what makes this debate so fun, because everyone does have opinion. But yours. I was just reading more about Cowboys and their head coach Jason Garrett and his lecturing the media about who's calling the plays for the Pokes coming up this particular season. Jerry Jones, of course, with his hand in the pot here, there, everywhere, as being the grand poobah of the Pokes. The thing that puzzles me about the Cowboys, and especially Garrett, Cowboys have won 8-8 the last 2 years and missed the playoffs. Last year just this past season, getting slapped around by the Redskins in a de facto 1-game playoff for the NFC East division title. But the Cowboys offense is middling at best. Mediocre may be the proper terminology. But to me, Garrett should say little about what he's doing, play calling, what have you, and worry more about why the offense is not utilizing Dez Bryant, why their offensive line has become porous, if not non-functional, why their running game is a rumor in the Metroplex area, and why Tony Romo seems to be running for his life and making bad decisions. The play calling is just one underlying symptom. And this is a team that no one fears. No one runs up on and says, oh, that's a great team. They are a middling team that many people have lost their respect for. Jason Garrett was once the hot young coach, the one everybody said, hey, he's going to be, a great coach someday. Well, I think people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and in Cowboy Nation all are waiting for that great coach. Jason Garrett then has his offensive line coach, Bill Callahan, the same Bill Callahan who famously drove the Raiders into the ground and fooled around at the University of Nebraska for 3 or 4 years and ran that program into the ground. Poor Bo Pelini has had to dig out that proud program from the damage that Callahan has done. The Raiders still haven't recovered from Callahan's handiwork, or lack thereof. He then defends Garrett, saying it doesn't matter who calls the plays. Well, it may not matter who calls the plays, but it matters what plays are called. And with those plays being called, if they're effective, if they're getting Cowboys points, if they're winning games, which they're not. And Jason Garrett lecturing the media on decorum is about as out of line as you're going to get. But you've come to expect this kind of nonsense in Dallas. The whole chaotic situation that Jerry Jones has stirred up and created is only coming back to haunt him and is a byproduct of all the chaos. The losing, the mediocrity, that's just the way things are in Dallas nowadays. In the Hood, we do discuss some serious topics, and one topic that has been a source of discussion as of late is the use of Native Americans as mascots. The three that come to mind, the Indians, Braves, and Redskins, but there's been a greater call for these three franchises, the first two in Major League Baseball, to change their mascot. Braves are going away from using the chief head on their logo. The Indians with the grinning red-faced Sambo, I think they should get rid of that, and they are in the process of working that out. The Redskins, however, have been pretty steadfast about staying with the team name, staying with the logo, the brown-faced Indian on the side of the helmet. And I think that there can be some way to change that, change the culture. And yes, that is a long heritage of, they say the Redskins a long, proud heritage, which goes back to 1937 when they moved to Washington from Boston. And many people forget that George Preston Marshall, the original owner of the Redskins, was about as virulent a racist as you could get, and was the last team to integrate for fear of offending some of his patrons. Then it wasn't until an executive order that came down from the White House itself that said you must, if you're going to play in a federal park, you're going to integrate. And that's what they had. Now, Redskins owner Dan Snyder has been more or less steadfast in his, I don't want to say outright refusal, but his hesitancy to change the name of the football team from Redskins, citing history and saying that there have been generations of fans that have grown up with that team name. And that is true. The Washington Redskins have a long history, a diverse fan base, but you have to take into consideration that you're using literally the persons of a person's skin color as a name, as a mascot. And that in itself is offensive. And people say, well, what if you used, Tar Baby or Spick or something other offensive type name or derogatory name for a mascot? How would people feel? And people would rightly feel upset. My thing is they need to really start looking at changing the culture. Yes, the Redskins have a proud heritage, but that heritage can be continued with another name. And I think that Dan Snyder would be lauded. And it wouldn't be considered politically correct or anything. It's just the right thing to do. Changing the name from Redskins to something else would be something smart to do. Okay, it's time for the Fat Dap Head Slap of the Week. Fat Dap goes to a group that I'm usually very critical of, the NCAA, in this case football, rules department, who has decided to make any kind of illegal hit to the head punishable by an automatic game ejection. If the player does the offense in the first half, he is kicked out of the game for the rest of the game, first and second half. If he does it in the second half, he is out of the game for the second half and then the first half of the next game. The NCAA is trying to get with the program of enforcing illegal hits as well as cracking down on blows to the head, which could lead to concussions. And it's not often that I'm giving out DAP to the NCAA, but in this case it's deserved, and well so. Now the head slap of the week goes to the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, who decided in their infinite wisdom that wrestling would be one of the sports that would be dropped from the Olympic roster in 2020. Wrestling, a sport that has been with the Olympics since the modern Olympics started in 1896 in Athens. Though wrestling is being dropped, sports like equestrian, rich people on horses, synchronized swimming. I'm sorry, I'm like the one columnist in ESPN that can't take it seriously after the parody that Saturday Night Live did, and that was almost 30 years ago. Trampoline. That's an Olympic sport. Bouncing on a trampoline, you win a gold medal, but you can't win for wrestling. Modern pentathlon. Quick. Name me the events that are modern pentathlon. I'll keep track of it on the time for you. But as it stands now, wrestling is going to be dropped from the Olympic roster. Now that is a sport that is a hard sport to master. It's not the WWE junk that you see on TV. It's real wrestling, freestyle, Greco-Roman. That in itself, a sport that I once competed in as a freshman in high school, is a discipline and a true measure of an Olympic sport. Why the IOC decided to drop it is beyond me. I think it's a dumb move, and I don't think that they should have even considered dropping it. It was bad enough they dropped baseball. You know, the pool is considered to be is up for Olympic sport. Now, for those who are curious, and I know you are, with bated breath, in the modern pentathlon, it says here that it's a 3-kilometer cross-country run, laser pistol shooting, fencing, show jumping, 200 meters swim. Other words, 5 or 6 events that most people, real sports fans like you and me, would have no interest in. Head slap to the IOC for dropping wrestling, a real Olympic sport. Well, with the music coming up in the background, you know that means our time in the Hoodwood is coming to an end. If you want to read the column, Musing from the Hoodwood, go to ugapsports.com on Tuesday. That's where my column is written. You can also peruse all the other great columns and blogs that are located there. Musing from the Hoodwood comes out every Thursday here on YouTube, and I try to put it out every Thursday depending on the production schedule. If you have any comments, questions, show topics, feel free to drop me a line at kj@blackbanditproductions.com. I'll see you next week. Until next time, little